Hey guys, Kieran King here. Today we are talking about leveraged buyouts or LBOs, a mechanism for essentially buying a company used by mainly private equity firms. Now, you may have heard of leveraged buyouts or LBOs before in the press and probably not in the most positive light. And I'm going to talk to you about why a bit later on. But first, let's dive into the concept and learn a little bit about it. In short, an LBO leverages the acquisition company's assets to obtain debt finance to buy the company, as opposed to buying it with full equity. Now, if that means gibberish to you, then let's look at an example. John has a company, XYZ company, that he has run successfully for 30 years. The company is quite stable and does about 15 million in pre-tax revenue every year. After tax, which is say a third of his revenue, so minus 5 million of tax, his net revenue is 10 million a year. Now, this company has other assets like factories and machineries too, crucial things needed to make the business tick. John takes his salary every month and pays himself a nice dividend when he can. However, he is now reaching retirement, he's worked hard all his life, and he wants to sell his business and effectively cash out for a lump sum so he can enjoy the fruits of his hard work. A private equity firm approaches John and makes an offer to buy the company for £100 million. Now, John is quite happy with this deal, as it's basically 10 times his annual net revenue. And these guys, John and the PE firm, they sit down to talk. Now, the PE firm could just give John £100 million worth of cash for the company. And if the business is making £10 million a year, that's essentially a 10% yield for the PE firm. However, that is a big chunk of cash for the PE firm to give out in one go, so instead they go down the route of an LBO. The PE firm puts down £10 million of its own money in exchange for equity in the company, which is 10%. It then goes to a bank to borrow the rest, which is £90 million. Now, the bank is not just going to give the PE firm £90 million unless that money is secured against something, and that something is the assets of XYZ company. This means that if the PE firm defaults on its payments to the bank can come in and acquire the assets. The bank will also, of course, charge an interest rate of, say, 10% a year. This means that repayments to the bank each year are 10% of 90 million, which is 9 million. So hang on, you might be thinking, now the PE firm has to pay £9 million a year of interest on the borrowed money. Why would they do that? And that's a really good question, but this is where the whole magic happens. Now, remember, the PE firm has only put down £10 million of its own money, and company XYZ does around 15 million in turnover a year. Now, remember, £9 million a year goes back to paying the bank plus interest, leaving us with £6 million. Of that, let's say 1/3 again goes to the taxman, leaving us with a post-tax revenue of the business of £4 million. Now, £4 million a year, based off a £10 million investment, because that's how much they put down originally, they didn't put down all of it, is now giving a yield of 40% a year, which is much better than the 10% scenario where the PE firm had put down 100% cash. And over time, as the debt position of the company decreases due to the repayments back to the bank, the PE firm's equity position of the business increases. And before long, it owns 100% of XYZ company anyways. So do you see how this is so much more beneficial to the PE firm? They have put less money down, but they're getting a better rate of return. Okay, so why do these sort of deals get bad press? Simply put, it's because the debt is secured against the assets of the acquired company. If the PE firm can't keep up its high interest repayments, the knock-on effect on the acquired company could result in layoffs, shutting down of departments, unemployment, and so on. In many cases, healthy companies that would have worked absolutely fine in the past and have worked for many years have suffered due to being on this end of the transaction. So looking at the same example, the business one year may only do £10 million in top line turnover as opposed to £15 million. Remember, £9 million is repaid to the bank, the lender, and it's only left then with £1 million, of which tax needs to be paid, and suddenly the net income of the business could be around £700,000 as opposed to the pre-leveraged buyout income of what would be around 6 million in this scenario. And with 700,000, the business might not be able to reinvest that money. It might not be able to do the things it wants to do with the business to help it grow. And it's sort of like a downward spiral, which eventually leads to the stuff we spoke about before, like unemployment, shutting down of factories, assets being sold off, etc., just to make ends meet. basically a less than ideal situation. So there you have it, a very simplified explanation of leveraged buyouts. There is a lot more detail we can go into, and I'll be looking at doing some more videos on this in the future, maybe using some real life examples as well. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that subscribe and like button, and do check out my others. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all soon.